Well, you just look at that beautiful paintwork. Wow. What car could this be? What kind of jewel is this here among the firmament? Or a car parked in the pasture, depending on how you look at it. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the 2022 Lexus IS350 all-wheel drive sedan. Look at its lines, shall you? Please do. Admire it. This is a very elegant car, but it's also very Lexus. There's no other sedan in the sport luxury category that really looks quite like this. And yet, thanks to a few styling cues, including this massive grille thing in the front that you just saw, it's very definitely a Lexus. A lot of family resemblance to all their other products. And a lot of manufacturers like to do that. And they're very successful at Lexus because there's no mistaking it. This is coming down the road at you, what it is. It's a beautiful car. And as you can see, the lines are fantastic. This particular model, look at this beautiful carbon fiber spoiler. Wow. I love that. Elegant, yes. Yes, functional? Probably. It probably has its functional side, I would think. But who cares? It looks really good on the car. And as we walk around, I want you to remember something. This is actually a compact. This is one of the smaller of the Lexi. And as such, I mean, the cars in general, when they're a sporting, it doesn't matter what make it is, whether it's Mercedes or BMW or Lexus, whatever. The sporting side is always pretty, I wouldn't say cramped, but I would say fits very tightly. Is a situation where you're driving a car that feels like it's wrapped around you as opposed to something you're sitting in. That's no mistake. That is an intention by all the manufacturers to do that. And I think they're very successful with this car because you have enough room to be comfortable, and yet it's very snug and cozy on the inside. And you can get two people in the back seat. They're not going to be large people, but most people will fit fine back there, especially for short trips, no problem. So, I'm just in love with these lines, but I'm really in love with this paint job. But before I move on, let me say one thing. Has it got a motor in it? What kind of motor? Is this one of them turbo things? Stick with me, let's have a look. Presently. It's not turbocharged. It is a normally aspirated 3.5 liter V6. And what is this? Monroney. I just met a girl named Monroney. Well, we'll deal with that later. You don't want to know what the bill comes to until later on, you know what I'm saying? But right now, we have a beautiful V6 engine. Now, I mentioned 3.5 liters, and you know Lexus is part of the Toyota family. So, is this the same engine, the 3.5 liter V6 that they put in some Toyotas? Is this the base engine that they use to turbocharge in the new Tundra? Twin turbo, actually. I have no idea other than to say I believe this is an older design. And that doesn't mean anything bad, by the way. What it isn't, as you can see from right here, 0-20 oil. It is not a new dynamic force type of engine because they use 0-16 oil. And to the best of my knowledge, they've only done 4 cylinders with that particular engineering strategy so far. But this is a very tried and true, I mean, it's an engine that you can't go wrong with because everything they've put it in. And the Lexus version is a little different, I believe, in terms of bore and stroke than the straight Toyota version. And naturally, it also has little bits of refinement that make it a Lexus engine. The smoothness, the sound, and in this case, 311 horsepower and 280 foot-pound of torque. A nice, healthy little output there. And it does all this without being excessively thirsty. It can actually be, especially if you're traveling on the highway, it can be a fairly economical power plant to deal with, you see. And what do we have? Well, we have a lot of very sophisticated valve control stuff, as is becoming commonplace on pretty much every engine as far as variable valve timing. This is the Lexus version, of course. And here we have there's some things on here that I understand, some things I don't. But here, this electronics that goes into the spring tower, that tells me that there is some kind of ride adjustment functionality going on there. Like when you select Sport or Sport Plus, in terms of your performance, it will probably alter the suspension a bit because it has the wiring to do that. And over here, here's our air box, right here. Air filter in there, flows onto the back there, goes around here, as you can see, and then it goes in, and I could pull this cover off, but I'm not going to, because it's beautiful. And this being a Lexus, they're never gonna have to pull that off. There ain't nothing gonna break on this car. I mean, come on. But oh, look at this. This is an air intake. This is how we got to the box just a minute ago, right here. Here's your air intake. Runs right down here. Brilliant, huh? I love it. That is one attractive engine. Does it work well? You'll see. Stay with us. So what do you think these wheels are on this Lexus here? 26s? Well, actually, they're only 19s. They just look big because of the low profile of the tires, which the tires are 235 40 R19s. So it just looks like you got one of those massive wheels that don't have much to run over when you hit your potholes. But the tires are actually a little thicker than that. And so far, I've put some miles on this car, and I've had zero trouble with that kind of thing. This is, of course, the F Sport version, which has all kinds of nifty things on it, both from a trim standpoint and a performance standpoint. And you know, if you like your sporting side, well, that's the version you want to get right there. And how about that trunk, huh? Whee! Here we are. It's not exactly bad back here, which makes me pleased. And you do have, of course, the ability to increase your cargo area. Looks about like a 60-40 split on your seat backs to open up your cargo area for more stuff. As is so cool with Lexus, they always come with a little first aid kit like this, which is brilliant because you never know, guys. You never, ever know. And what have we got underneath here? Will I be pleased? Yes! Yes, look there. A temporary spare tire so you won't get completely stranded. You know how I feel about that. If you don't know how I feel about that, I don't blame you. Why would you know? But there we go. It's actually quite roomy for a compact. You got plenty of room there. It makes, it's consistent with what size car this is. And nothing is really compromised in terms of what size the trunk is. It's just the size it can be, so you can actually go somewhere in this car on your weekend getaway to like the ski chalet. Oh, did I mention all-wheel drive? Yes, this car does have all-wheel drive. And a 6-speed automatic transmission. It would have an 8-speed if it was just the standard rear-wheel drive version. But because of the all-wheel drive, it's a 6-speed because I think I'll mention this later. There is, in fact, some, I think, real estate problems as far as the size of the transmission, that they can either have 8 speeds or they can have all-wheel drive, but not both at this juncture. And believe me, 6 is fine. 6 is good. 6 cylinders, 6 speeds. I mean, come on. That is symmetry, man. Check it out. Could this be something we have seen before? Yes. Yes. It must be a Lexus. Well, I tell you, our IS350 all-wheel drive, S-Sport, F-Sport, E-Sport, Hey, Sport, F Sport, that's it, yes. Has got the instrument cluster that's very similar to the previous Lexus we tested a couple of weeks ago. And I like it just because the thingy moves back and forth. It's also very interesting in that it's a consolidated, what I consider to be a consolidated instrument cluster. Doesn't have a whole lot of stuff spread out. The main thing you have is your speedometer is primarily the digital unit that you see in the middle of the circular tachometer, which is actually all, well, it isn't. It's a strange mix on this sucker because the needle itself is virtual. The displays themselves are virtual. But there isn't a mechanical element in that the part that actually slides over that we love so much. And this is, by the way, I would call this the default position, how most people are going to use it. The part that slides over is mechanical. Everything else is virtual. So it's a, you can't really call it a hybrid virtual mechanical. What it is, I would describe it as virtual with some mechanical elements. But, so this is probably the typical way you will, you'll probably have it set up, which is the standard or the default position, in my mind anyway. And then the computer part, the trip computer part, you can easily change using buttons on the steering wheel. And you can, like, if I put the gear position, there, see? Manual 1. If I was in a manual shifting mood, that would be right there. But you know, if I'm not, it's not. And what else do we have? We have our tire pressure. If I want to change it to kilometers per hour, there we are. Yeah, we don't want to do that. But there you go. So that's that. Now, we have these nice big temperature and fuel gauges. But if we want them to go away and do other things, we push the little button, and there we have a compass. And audio is off, thank you. And here we have, as usual, you have a top menu that is leading you around to whatever function you want. Like if I go back for a second here, there's information. And if we want information, we hit a lower button, and that'll give us, we've been getting 22.4 miles per gallon. Not bad at all, actually. We have 118 miles left in the tank. Eco indicator is, what happens if I do that? Nothing. Yes, there is an ecology. That's what that's to tell you. Here's the G-force meter. I never have understood these. It's beyond me unless you want to get into some serious hooligan behavior. And gear position, again, let's do that again. There we go, first. And see, you can, well, you can't start in anything but first on this car. Some cars you can actually start in second if you want. But there's that. There's that. And that's basically what you've seen here. Oh, and if we go to the control quadrant, if you will, or the control menu, there we have all kinds of lane centering, departure alert as far as that, like the sensitivity of it all. And you can fine tune that to your particular driving style, or just turn the whole thing off like I did, because I don't particularly like the lane centering. Well, it depends on where you're driving. And I did some driving yesterday on an interstate situation where there was a lot of traffic, and I was constantly changing lanes and everything else in order to get home, to be honest. And it didn't help me there. It was not an asset at that point. But you got everything else. You got, you think about all the modern things that you have as far as parking sensors and rear cross traffic alerts and rear cross traffic braking. All those are there for you to select in our main instrument cluster. So, and elsewhere, we have a very nice, what I like to call landscape central display, touchscreen display. Now, how do I get around on this touchscreen? Well, let's see. Unfortunately, this is one of the things I do not like about Lexus cars. As he took a deep draught from his tea. And that's this here trackpad. Now, it's fine, I guess, for some people. I mean, you can do this. That's fun. That's enjoyable. Then we can go to the main menu, and you have to go down. Like if you want to go to audio, there's audio, and you can select all that. But I just find this particular way of doing things extremely awkward, and that's me. It's a personal preference thing, but it'd be great if you had a choice. And when you're buying your particular luxury vehicle like this, if they offered you 2 or 3 different ways of doing this, I know that would cost a fortune. We're talking different production and everything else. They'd have to be able to install it as part of a package, I guess. And that may be I mean, I don't know if there's any other package that'll help you out with this, but so you can have something other than, would a knob be good? I don't know. I mean, with a lot of situations, I think you're better off with just touching the touch screen. But that's the way they do it here. And here's the information, which is always fascinating to me, because it has all kinds of stuff here. You have including one of the more useful aspects of these things is having an e-owner's manual that you can select and literally find stuff. If you're too that's a nice graphic. In case you just don't want to deal with looking through the owner's manual, and hopefully as ownership increases and people complain about stuff they can't find in the owner's manual, they can notify Lexus, and Lexus can update this car. Whether or not you have any kind of over-the-air update possibilities with this particular Lexus, probably not. But at any rate, you can pop in your dealer for service for one day, and they'll update everything for you. But that's a real handy thing to have, actually, to have the owner's manual right there for you. And that's all in the information that, they used to have. Let me go back to information for a minute. It's another thing I don't like about these trackpads is they're so precise, and they work like a trackpad on your laptop computer, and it takes a bit of attention to find stuff. And I like to be able to find stuff. I saw what I was looking for. This is nice right here. Oops. See? It's very precise. It's a pain in the butt, is what it is. But there we have the latest weather from Worcester, Massachusetts, in case you're interested. And how about a weather map? This is one thing I like about Toyotas and Lexi, that they offer you this. Look at that nice weather map. I don't see any rain right around us anywhere, so that's good. That is such a great thing to have on a car. Why every car doesn't have that in this day and age, I don't know, but they don't. But incidentally, here's something that's going to shock and amaze you. I mentioned this is in some ways it's an older style car. It's got, for example, it's got the older style cruise control paddle right here that is a kind of a Lexus Toyota thing from the past, as it seems to be more and more stuff is being put here. But check this out. We have a stereo right here that you can access media and everything else. And what is this? What's this slot here for? Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is a CD player. Probably plays DVDs too. So if we hit media, Bluetooth, yeah, disc, you can put a disc in there. Isn't that something? I love that. And this is all part of the Mark Levinson audio system. But how about that? I got piles of CDs, and I like listening to CDs in cars a lot of times because, well, you want to listen to like that Dixie Chicks album or something. You can just pop the album in, and it's like listening to a CD. And we all stream. Yes, we're a bunch of streaming creatures, but it's nice that they have that on this car. I find that to be a definite plus. It's just another, why not have it? It's like having ports on your laptop. It's real good to have these ports if you need them. A lot of people will never use them, but it's nice to have it there if you want to use it. Anyway, and above that, of course, is our climate. And look at this thing here. It's one of these sort of things you slide up and down. I'll put this on 68. That's where I like to have it this time of year. And our beautiful analog clock. I love it so. It's great. And okay, down here then, we're still in the driving area, and you have a fairly conventional shifter. There's no huge electronic gooiness about it. It's just a good old shifter. And drive here, you pop over here for manual shifting to the 6 speeds, and you can adjust them with the paddles on the steering wheel, or right here, back and forth. Very conventional, very good. Next to that, we have your driving center as far as here's your snow setting, if you want to put the snow setting on. And here's our when it's normally in the default position is of course normal and custom. So if you press down on it, it's custom, and then you can do things. What can you do? let's see what we can do here. Setting. There we go. All right, powertrain, power, sport, chassis. That's interesting that it's set on all these things, even though I thought I was just on a rudimentary normal mode. Let's go over to sport, and then go down to you got to turn the knob, then come over to the trackpad. Power, normal, echo. Let's put normal on there. How's that? Chassis, which I mentioned is adjustable. You can see the adjustable electronics that go into the struts on the front when I showed that. And they're not really struts. They're, well, anyway, it's a double A-arm situation as I recall. But you can do that, sport and normal. So we'll go back to normal. We're just going to be all normal here. And so anyway, I think you get the idea. And if I go back to, how do I go back to normal? Sport S, Sport Plus, Echo, and normal. Okay. So there you go. Anyway, you have all those modes that you can play with. And then there's communications known as the comm mode. I made that up. There is no comm mode in this car. And don't even think about it. Just leave that alone. Don't even think about that. So how's our room, you may ask? It's like all sport luxury vehicles that are of the compact size genre. It's pretty, I wouldn't call it tight, but it's real cozy. And if you're like over 6'3", I think you may, first thing you will destroy the rear seat legroom by putting the seat all the way back. Woo-hoo. It does go back really far. So I think your 6'2" can get in here comfortably. But what cost? Well, like I said, you'll lead up the rear seat legroom. But go back to the map there. There we are. The room is good, actually, and the headroom is real decent, especially considering it does have a nice little sunroof up here. And is there anything else that's like outstanding in one way, good or bad? It suffers from a foible that everybody has these days in the modern automobiles, and that they have to scatter switches all over everywhere, because they do want to get you some old-fashioned switches that are tactile that you can do with your, once you learn where everything is, you can do with your eyes sticking onto the road watching traffic instead of having to grope around or deal with that touch screen interface with the trackpad. But way down here we got a rear, let's do this, this is cool. Here goes our rear shade. I'm gonna push this button right here. Cool, huh? I think so. I'll put that down. And here we have camera views. Now look at that. it's doing the 360 thing. Whee! And we can do, oh boy, hang on, do I need to use my trackpad? Yep. Oh, look at that. It even has the right color car. Always good. Pause. So you can examine one particular area as you're sitting there. It appears that there is a vehicle parked to my right. We'll continue around. And there we are. Oh, directly over here. Look at that. Somebody's had some fun. And what happens if we do that? Oh, you get this. You get to adjust the body color setting. What if I want to pretend I'm in a red car? There we are. You know, I thought that was just totally color keyed to this car, but apparently not. Apparently you can change it if you want to. To me, that's just too much choice. That's just too much for me. All right, and what happens if we go, what the heck? Yeah, okay. But anyway, neat, huh? I like that button. That button it releases all kinds of tigers and lions and stuff. Okay, now down here we have our trip odometer and 6,570 miles incidentally is how many miles this car has on it, which is quite a few. So the tires are not quite spanking new, and that matters on things like sports cars. Wait a minute. What was that other thing? Oh, I'm a liar. 6,570 miles until service is due. Otherwise, this car only has 34.95 on it. Okay. Sorry, my mistake. This leather, by the way, I'm just going to leap over here because this is really nice. And naturally, you got your ventilation. Woo boy. And your heating. So, regardless of what season you find yourself, you will be able to fine-tune your comfort. So, it's kind of like what you would expect out of a Lexus, but considering we're in a compact one that is not an arm and a leg in terms of cost, it is expensive, but it's not insanely expensive. Pretty good deal, don't you think? I mean, nice car. But wait, what about the back seat? Okay, hang on. We'll take care of that. All right. What if one is Sidney Greenstreet or Orson Welles? Well, you probably don't remember either one of those, you young children. But door opening is a little tight for someone that's of that size. But for most people, it's okay. Now, what we have here is the wife was sitting up front, and the wife always insists on putting the passenger seat all the way back for comfort. So, do I have room? Yeah, I can sit back here. It's not, yeah, when I mentioned before that it eats up the legroom, it does a little bit, but it's still perfectly habitable. And what else do we have that's very important? Well, we have a massive drive shaft tunnel. Looks like that, what was it called, Helm's Deep? In one of the Lord of the Rings movies, that huge wall that they all had, that the orcs and things were coming up. That's what that looks like. So you got room for 2 people, but you're not going to get 3 unless they have very short legs or they can somehow splay themselves. But for 2 people, not bad at all. And here we have, very nice map lights. But what about my favorite thing in the world? That is a very, very nice armrest. It's at a good height. I like that. It's perfect. This in combination with a decent amount of lumbar back here is great. And look at that. Did you see that? That's so cool. I need a place to put my beverage. Can you help me? Oh yeah, right there. I love that. I love it when they do stuff like that. But as mentioned before, you can fold these seats down to give a little more room to your cargo area in the trunk, and you can also put your skis through if you need to do that. which you'll be needing to do that soon, even though it's approximately 370 degrees outside, and that's enough to just boil your, it's all right, boil your butt. That's how much that is. That's quite a bit. So anyway, considering the compact size of this car, this is not a bad back seat at all. It's quite good, actually. So again, you have a surprising amount of versatility. And I did mention before, this car does have all-wheel drive. There's not a lot of snow on the ground at the moment, but in the dry, I can actually feel the, it's an improvement over just having rear-wheel drive, because it does cling pretty tenaciously to the road when it gets, there's a lot of sand, not sand, but just general dirt and stuff, since we haven't had all that much rain, although I speak 2 days ago that we actually got some rain. So, but anyway, when I first drove this thing, there was one corner I went around that just had a lot of, I don't know, it was construction trucks going through or something, but there was some sand and stuff. And boy, the front tires on this thing really gripped when I came out of the corner and kept me on the straight and narrow. So all-wheel drive is such a good thing to have on a car like this, because it will help keep you safe and stable. So, nice interior, nice exterior. I think the key word here is nice. As is the case with a lot of Lexus automobiles, they use the conventional, well, this is almost like an older model. There are, how about you be quiet? How's that?
13 miles ahead on the route. Slow traffic.
I tried to make her go away, folks. She's going to do what she wants to do. But a lot of the technology, for example, if you look at the V6 engine, it's an older, meaning it's not like the very latest state-of-the-art engine out of the Toyota Skunk Works. It's an engine that's been around a while, and that's good, because it's extremely well proven, and it's a real reliable engine that they have a lot of experience with. Same thing, this cruise control is a similar kind of thing, because it's an older design that Lexus has had and Toyota used to have pretty much exclusively. And now some Toyotas have it, as I recall, but more and more are putting it up here. I prefer it down here because this particular paddle system is nice and unique in terms of, I know exactly where it feels like, where everything. And when I try to use a cruise control that uses a thumb, I often have to glance down to make sure I'm hitting the right thing. Now, once you have the car a long time, of course, you probably won't have to do that, because you'll just know through repetition where the spot is on there to get to hit the resume and everything else. And a lot of them do some clever engineering in terms of how the different controls, for example, increasing and decreasing your speed in the adaptive cruise control, so that you really won't make, you don't have to hunt for it as much. You can feel it. It's tactily unique for that role. So, but overall, I prefer this older design. I think this is a real nice design. Similar to the Volkswagen I had a few weeks ago. Although I'm fairly sure Toyota had their design first, and the Volkswagen Audi system is over on the left side. But that's the kind of car this is. It has a lot of the older Lexus stuff in it, which is great, because it's all proven stuff. There's things in it I don't like that has been in Lexus that I wish Lexus would get rid of, including this trackpad right here, because that's what you use to navigate. I just find no trackpads in cars for me. I just don't like them. And over here, we got all kinds of stuff going on here in this console, but we have, right now we're on normal, and we can go to Echo. See how much I slowed down there? It didn't actually happen that way. And then we have Sport S. And then Sport S Plus. And this, of course, changes a number of parameters, the shifting parameters, all kinds of different things. But I normally leave these cars on the normal or default settings because I feel like that's the best all-round performance you're going to get. And you can build it from there. You can, if you want more performance out of it. Is it going to change that dramatically? Nah, probably not. But what else? Car rides very nicely. It has a fairly stiff suspension to enable really good handling, but it does not punish you in the process. There's still a lot of good compliance there to keep you happy and keep your customers, keep your passengers also happy. It's also quiet. There's a little bit of wind noise, but not an excessive amount by any stretch. All these things are like Lexus and just general luxury car things you absolutely expect. You expect the car to be quiet. You expect it to have plenty of power. You expect it to have a transmission that shifts really smoothly. And in me, I expect it to have an analog clock right there or over here or somewhere. I do like my analog clocks. I think the first time, this is completely wrong, I'm sure, especially since I've spent so little time in Bentleys. But years ago, it was one of the first years, I think, that Nissan started the Infinity badge, where they went for their luxury badge, similar to the way Lexus is the luxury badge of Toyota products. And it had an analog clock in it, I remember, and I thought, isn't that cool? It doesn't need to have it. It's pure ornamentation, but it's ornamentation with a purpose. And I really liked it. And since then, God, so many do have analog clocks, and I think it's something that everyone looks upon happily when they see it. And they can also tell what time it is. And heck, you can even tell from the back seat if your Apple Watch has died because the battery went kaput on you and you're desperate to know what time it is, and you left your phone at home, you can just look right up here and from the back seat and tell you it's that time. It's almost lunchtime or whatever, you know. So what else do I like about this car? Well, it does have a very stiff feel in terms of the body. It feels very solid. And it's a good anchoring point for a suspension that has, like I said, it does have a fair amount of compliance to it to keep the ride comfortable. Because the particular road I'm on right now is not terribly rough, but it's actually not real smooth either. There's a lot of imperfections and all kinds of just general nastiness you get in the Northeast with roads that have to endure a very wide range of weather conditions, from super cold to pretty daggum hot. And over time, that starts to, and the fact that this particular road I'm on is always got a lot of traffic on it. It's a major artery in a way. There's so many parts of the Northeast, especially Northeast Connecticut, for example, that there's big sections where you have to kind of go one way or the other. You don't have a lot of choices, which is good because you have a lot more countryside that way. I remember the only place I've ever been that had so few roads that you could not possibly get lost unless you really worked at it was New Zealand. And I was on a BMW GS 1200 motorcycle traveling around, and I was with a great company called Beach's Motorcycle Adventures. And what you could do is you wake up in the morning at the hotel with we had about I don't know 10 bikes in our group, something like that. And you'd have a nice breakfast, and Rob Beach would give us a briefing of where we were going today and things to look out for that you might want to examine closer on your journey and everything else. But the nice thing was, you started there, and the hotel is here, and there's basically only one way to get there. So you can take your time, do whatever you want. You will get there because you're not going to get lost. And did I manage to get lost anyway? Yes, once. But that in and of itself was an adventure for another day. But anyway, so when you have all these different factors, even if it's a beautiful paving job initially, roads start to fall apart in very predictable ways. And then you start running snowplows over them on top of everything else. And so you get all these little striations and everything else that run perpendicular to the direction of travel. And so it's a real good test for suspension in terms of how it does under certain circumstances, whereas you would expect it to ride smooth if it has a really well-tuned suspension. Like if I was in this in any of the new pickups, there would be a lot more motion to the suspension right now, and it wouldn't be near as smooth as it is. And yet the IS350 does this without in any way compromising really sharp handling. Thanks. All right, now how many tuber of Ubers take you in a parking garage in a Lexus, let you drive around with me in the parking garage of the Yale Physicians Building in New Haven, Connecticut? How many let you do that? Because it's an unusually interesting parking garage. You got a lot of people with a lot of different kinds of cars. Look, there's one of them Terslers. That's I think that's all hydrogen, something like that. You know, soon everything's just going to be scanned. You're going to have a big barcode on the front of your car that does everything.
Please insert the parking ticket or present credit card. Thank you for your visit and have a safe drive.
Thank you, you too. I do love talking to robots. Excuse me, I have to take this text message. Oh, my wife has a migraine. That sucks. I must respond. See, this is the outside. It's very different from the inside. Boy, you know, when I was, when you have to go to an appointment, you hit every freaking light. When you're like on the borderline of being on time and late. And I hit every light coming down here. Now that I'm all done and time is not as critical, I hit every light green. It's enough to make you crazy. See, if you're spending a lot of money on a luxury sports car like this, it ought to have some powers. It ought to be able to do things. There didn't used to be a light here. Now there's a light here. And the traffic is just as bad as it always was. Well, this has twice as many lanes as it used to, and now but it's still a mess. I say kudos for putting more lanes in, though. At least they're trying. At least they're putting forth the effort. Now, I'm in this car and I'm looking at all these things. I got analog and virtual all mixed together and all these things, and all I can think of is LED or conventional stoplights What do you think? Your thoughts?
Why am I asking you?
So, like, I don't know if y'all saw that other video I did with the most recent Lexus I've had since this one, but to be able to move the gauge back and forth, even though it opens itself up so you can have more access to a trip computer, I have to ask, do I like it just because I like moving the thing back and forth, which is kind of pointless? Or do I like it because it's a wonderful way of doing your instrument cluster? Well, I don't really think it's a wonderful way of doing it. I think I just like making a little thing go back and forth. Thing goes in, thing goes out. It just never gets old to me. If only more things on the car were like that. I'd like to make the analog clock migrate about if it wanted to. You could kind of move over here into the passenger area. So anyway, oh, you were asking about the transmission. Well, like I said before, it has a 6-speed automatic as opposed to the 8-speed on the rear-wheel drive version, because this is the all-wheel drive version. And you kick it over here to the manual mode, and then you have, and we're going to use them now, first, second, third. Okay, you pick when we want to go into fourth. Just tell me ready. Now, coming up on 3,000 RPM. Now, coming up to 4,000 RPM. Okay, now, okay, there we go. Fourth gear. It's not exactly what I would describe as snickety-snick positive, but it's good enough. It does hold the gear, and that's the main thing you want these things. The manual setting on your automatic is for holding the gear for whatever reason. It's not necessarily quick gear changes. Now, everything is advertised that that's the reason, but I think you use it more practically if you just want to run it up to higher RPMs in that particular gear, in the interest of whatever you're doing. Speed, excitement. Okay, now what happens if I hit, I'm at the top gear now, and if I hit it again, what if it ignores the protocols of only having 6 speeds in the all-wheel drive version? It goes to 7. It's not going to do that. So we'll go back to drive. Now we cruise along. Again, I really do like the balance of the suspension. It's a lot of Lexus types like this. I'm basically talking about previous ISs that I've driven. A couple of the, what is it, the RC, the 2-door. It's a beautiful car. I've always found the suspension to be slightly on the harsh side, but this is better. This is a little more compliant. Boy, where are all these people going? I hope you have a good reason for doing whatever you're doing and going there. Here, we're turning, we're coming over here. There we are. Hey dude, I really don't think you need that big trailer for that little thing you're hauling. I mean, you know, whatever, but...
Sollte wollen, es empfiehlt eine